Book Club, good morning. It's Luis D. Martinez. We're back at it again with chapter 3 of Atomic Habits. I love this chapter. It was so good. And this chapter basically touched on points that come out of this book, where it focuses on the stages of building a habit. I highly encourage all of you to get The Power of Habit. This is a great book. Extensive reading, vocabulary is a little bit intense, but all of you have this. You can do it. I encourage you, highly encourage you to get this book, read it once or twice. I've read this book 4 times. It is a great book. So anyway, long story long, at the bottom of page 51, chapter 3, How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps, Mr. Clear states this: all behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. Sometimes the problem is that you notice something good and you want to obtain it. Sometimes the problem is that you are experiencing pain and you want to relieve it. Either way, the purpose of every habit is to solve the problems you face. I love that. That makes so much sense. We know this, but we don't pay attention to it consciously. Subconsciously, sometimes we do, but it makes sense. If you want to solve your problems, you have to build better habits. This book touches on what is called the habit loop, where you have these 4 different stages of how a habit is created and then also how it's reinforced every time you try to do whatever the habit is. So the 4 stages of this habit: 1 is the cue, 2 is the craving, 3 is the response, and then 4 is the reward. And then 1 and 2 are considered the problem phase, and then 3 and 4 are considered the solution phase. And it all makes sense. You have a cue, you have a craving, you have a response, and then you have a reward. You're hungry. You think about where you're gonna eat. Your response is either I get in my car or I walk over there. And then 3, you're happy when you get your food. That's a habit, right? We have to feed ourselves. And when you think about every single habit in that form: cue, craving, response, reward. In summary, the cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies the craving, and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. Together, these 4 steps form a neurological feedback loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Cue, craving, response, reward, that ultimately allows you to create automatic habits. This cycle is known as the habit loop. When he dives into this, he starts talking about how to build habits. And long story long, he says that in order for you to start making these habits natural, they have to be part of your identity. When you make them part of your identity, they become you. In order for these habits to organically take off, you have to fall into this category, which again, it's all very simple. So let me read this to you. He calls this the 4 laws of behavior change. So they're basically in the same category: cue, craving, response, reward. So number 1 for the cue is, how can I make it obvious? How can you make it obvious? Number 2, the craving, how can I make it attractive? How can you make it attractive? Number 3, the response, how can I make it easy? How can you make it easy? And number 4, the reward, how can I make it satisfying? When you have all 4 of those categories checked off, you build a habit. And then in order to I don't even know how to say that. In order to get rid of a bad habit, you have to do the opposite. So this is basically like an inversion. If you're trying to break a bad habit, it goes like this. The cue to break a bad habit is make it invisible. The craving is to make it unattractive. The response is to make it difficult. The reward is to make it unsatisfying in order to break bad habits. Again, he dives into so much, he touches on so much, but I do not want to take away your pleasure of reading chapter 3. I am telling you, go get this book. And when you get this book, also get The Power of Habit. These two books are so good. This is all about being better, getting out of here and doing much more out here in the real world. When things matter to you, you make change. If they don't matter, if you don't care, if you're too lazy, you're gonna stay stuck. You're gonna stay in your ways. It is what it is, man. Again, this is all up to you. If you want to break a bad habit, do it. Get motivated, get inspired, and just do it. There's nothing that you have to lose. There's so much benefit in just being a better person. So that's chapter 3. Get these 2 books. I'll see you next week.